You know, startup screens can say a lot about... They can say a lot. Okay. Can you not? Okay, you know what? I'm done using this intro. It's old, it's outdated, it was clearly put together in a minute. It's just, I'm done. Can we get a new intro in here? Startup screens are important. No, seriously, they're essentially the first impression you'll get from your fancy new computer box, and if that first impression is... then yeah, I'd probably run in the opposite direction too. You see, technology can be pretty scary sometimes, and things like this can make us feel a lot better. Yeah, I don't know, when I was little, the best part about booting up the family computer was always the... And I mean, computer companies have been doing this for years, for better and for worse, and there's a perfectly good reason as to why they'd continue this tried and true tradition. The point is to give friendliness to the computer, a nice little warm feeling you get whenever you turn it on, a sense of security, if you will. This thing is your buddy and not some lifeless machine that's set to kill all of humanity someday. Sometimes it's the little things that matter, and with video game consoles essentially being computers, I'm sure they began implementing their own startup screens as soon as possible. Okay, maybe not that soon. Yeah, it would take some time, but eventually Sega stepped up and gave us some iconic jingles. And yes, I know Sega probably wasn't the first company to do this. If you want to count the Famicom Disk System, be my guest, or even the Vectrex. But do I really look like a guy who owns a Vectrex? So, you gonna eat that? Now, when you think of an iconic console startup screen, you most likely think of... Sega! Probably because it's been referenced, like, so many times by Sega recently. Like, guys, chill out. Nintendo eventually jumped on the fad too, throwing in a little... into their SNES cartridges. But that's the thing. This intro was part of the game itself, not the console. So, technically... these don't classify as console startup screens. They're just startup screens. Now, is that a bad thing? What? Nah, in fact, it was a great thing, as it allowed developers to customize their startup screens and theme them around their game. Granted, not all developers took advantage of this ability, and for those who didn't, well... you know, that's fine. But for those who did, well, it resulted in beauties like Aladdin. Listen, nothing gets me going more than a spinning Nintendo logo before playing Mario Kart 64, or seeing Sonic dash across the Sega logo, or hearing a booming orchestra greet me as I get ready to play some Donkey Kong Country 2. This is amazing! And whenever I boot up Banjo-Kazooie, it's like a whole freaking parade has come to town via my television. This is good. But Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 might have just barely surpassed all of these for me. I know this one is more of a game startup screen than a console startup screen, but come on. It's dancing stormtroopers. Okay, yeah, I am getting a little off topic, so why don't we jump back into talking about the title of this video by exploring Nintendo's handheld... While I'm not that big on handhelds, I am capable of appreciating the amount of care Nintendo put into these console startup screens. Yeah, that's what this video's about. Take the Game Boy line, for example. Nintendo would make an updated version of this intro with every new model of Game Boy, just to really show off the power of each new handheld. The Game Boy Color was in color, and the Game Boy Advance had some 3D action going on. Whoa, whoa! They even continued this with the DS line. Really, the evolution of Nintendo's handheld consoles can be examined through their startup screens. Well, I'm glad that the handhelds that mattered were hitting it out of the park. Anyway, I wonder how things were going over on the console scene. Sony came swinging into the video game scene in 1995 with not only their new PlayStation, but also with its startup screen. This baby right here tells you it means business. It's bold, it's in your face, it's ringing all the church bells in the world to let you know it's here. This is a great intro. So great that the PS2 just had to one-up it. Oh, it's like I'm diving headfirst into a city. made of games. And fun fact, these blocks actually each represent a save file on your console's memory card. The depth of a block symbolizes how much time you've spent playing said game. That was very thoughtful of Sony at the time, much like the rest of the startup screens in the 6th generation of consoles. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and call this generation the golden age of console startup screens, because honestly, these companies really outdid themselves here. The GameCubes, for example, is not only cool and iconic, but it also keeps secrets and can't be trusted. By holding down the Z button while your console boots up, the sound effects of the animation will be replaced with that of a dog's chew toy followed by child laughter. And if you hold down the Z button on 3 more controllers, then this happens. I love it. It really goes to show that this console is more of a purple fridge than a lunchbox. On the other hand, the original Xbox startup screen makes me feel like this is an all-powerful machine capable of launching nukes into space, and the Dreamcast startup screen is all cool and mysterious. Like, yeah, it's thinking, but what's it thinking about? You see, I'm of the belief that a startup screen succeeds when it is able to perfectly encompass the tone of its console. That may just be me looking too deep into these, but I can't help it. Whenever I see this, I want to think of this. A lot of CD consoles did this back in the day with seizure-inducing colors, but recently, a lot of modern consoles have, gotten lazy. This all started with the PS3 in my opinion. You see, it had the daunting task of one-upping the PS2 startup screen, and instead it decided to take us to the Symphony. I mean, Xbox was on a good streak. Until it wasn't. The Wii literally just warns you about health and safety. If anything, this just makes me scared to play this console. Like, what's it going to do to me? Well, at least that screen made me feel something. Meanwhile, the Wii U and PS4 just emphasize the empty void I feel in my heart every waking hour of the day. Listen, I hate oversimplifying logos as much as the next guy, but nothing gets me more worked up than an oversimplified startup screen. Like, what the hell? You guys had all this power crammed into this little box. Why don't you flex it? I mean, they got a little better with the PS5, but it's still missing something. Like, where's the flair? Where's the attitude? The Atari Jaguar had a spinning Jaguar cube in its startup screen. Why can't we get that again? It almost seems like companies nowadays have just stopped caring. I mean, look at the Switch. It doesn't even have a startup screen. It just turns on. I mean, sure, it does this little thing when you first boot up the system, but after that, nothing. I guess everyone's just in a rush nowadays. They don't have time to sit through a console startup screen. They just want to get to the games. And it's kind of sad. Anyway, let's see how my new intro's coming along. Alright, what you got? Hey, that's pretty good. Wait, no!